I sat in County Probate Court, Courtroom 3B, third row back, watching my son try to steal his dead mother's money. The courtroom smelled like old paper and floor wax. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, same institutional hum as Station 7's engine bay. Brandon sat at the petitioner's table in a navy suit still creased from the store. Price tag probably charged yesterday. His attorney was spreading documents across the desk. 5 pages. The forged will splits Claire's $890,000 estate, $60,044,000 to Brandon, $356,000 to me. Judge Brenner slid her reading glasses down, studying the papers with the deliberate focus of someone who's seen forgery before. Behind me, 17 retired firefighters filled the gallery in their dress uniforms. The brass buttons caught the fluorescent light. Nobody coughed. Nobody shifted. The silence of men who knew how to wait. They drove here from 3 counties over. Not one of them believed Brandon's story. Patricia Chen stood at our table. She was wearing her practical charcoal blazer and holding the Parker 51 fountain pen she saves for document fraud cases. Your Honor, to rebut the petitioner's testimony, I'd like to introduce Exhibit M. Brandon's shoulders stiffened. What is Exhibit M? Judge Brenner asked. An audio recording. Patricia's voice stayed level. The court is about to hear Mr. Brandon Halstead and his wife discussing how to forge Claire Halstead's signature. The recording was made 3 weeks before Claire died. Brandon's tan went sallow. His hand moved to his collar, fingers finding the knot of his tie. Patricia connected Emma's phone to the courtroom audio system. The file was queued up, metadata verified. Brandon's voice filled the courtroom through the ceiling speakers, loud and clear and unmistakable. I can't get the loop right on the C-show Me Again, How Mom Signed Cards. Judge Brenner leaned forward. Brandon stared at the speakers like they might catch fire. The recording continued for its full 47 minutes. The silence held afterward. No one moved. No one spoke. Don't just watch the revenge. Join the channel by subscribing now. I sat in my garage workshop the Saturday after Claire's funeral. The space heater hummed against December cold. 17 typewriters lined the workbench behind me, their metal frames catching fluorescent light. The burgundy file box was open on my lap. Claire's journals filled the top shelf. 17 leather-bound volumes dated 1982 through 2024. 42 years of marriage preserved in her left slanted cursive. I pulled the final journal. The leather was still supple, still smelled faintly of her perfume. I closed the journal, set it on the workbench beside the 1952 Royal Quiet de Luxe. The leather still held her perfume. I had to set it down before my hands started shaking. The last entry was dated 8 days before she died. Roger will need these files if Brandon questions my wishes. He doesn't understand what his father is capable of when protecting what we built. The documentation will speak for itself. Patricia Shen from the fire department days will fight for him if he asks. She understands how we document everything. She knew. Even then, dying, she knew Brandon would try something. The color-coded filing system stretched across the back wall. Burgundy boxes for estate documents. Blue for financial records. Green for medical. Yellow for correspondence. Each box labeled with date ranges and contents lists in my block printing. The same system I used for incident reports at Station 7. 3 captains told me I was paranoid. Said no firefighter needed to document every equipment check, every training drill, every union grievance. I filed it all anyway. Saved the department from 4 lawsuits over 30 years because I could produce the exact paperwork they claimed didn't exist. Claire used to tease me about it, called our filing cabinet sacred scripture. Said even she could find anything in 30 seconds because I never varied the pattern. I'd tell her the day she needed proof something happened, she'd thank me for being boring. She'd laugh, kiss my cheek, hand me another receipt to file. Now those receipts were evidence. Bank statements showing systematic monthly contributions. 500 in the lean years. 800 when we were both working full-time. Every deposit documented, every withdrawal explained. I pulled the blue box labeled Financial 1982-2004. Found the manila folder marked House Purchase. We married in 1982. I was 22, making $43,000 as a probationary firefighter. Claire was 20, first-year teacher, earning $38,000. We bought the house 3 years later for $180,000. Paid it off in 2004, 19 years of 800 monthly payments. Claire tracked in a separate ledger. The ledger was still in the folder. Her handwriting documented every payment, every extra principal contribution, the celebration dinner we had the day we made the final payment. 19 years, mortgage-free at 43 and 41. We did this together. I ran my fingers over the words. The ink was permanent. The evidence was permanent. Everything we built was documented in these boxes. My firefighter salary topped out at $87,000 when I retired at 58. Claire's teacher income reached $62,000 in her final years before cancer forced her to stop. We never lived beyond our means, never bought what we couldn't afford, never confused wants with needs. Brandon grew up watching us save, watching us choose, watching us build something stable and real. He graduated from State University in 2008. We paid $47,000 over 4 years from the college fund we started when he was born. March 2018 entry, her cursive getting shakier. Brandon called today. Car repair emergency, $3,000. Roger thinks we should just give it to him. I wrote the check. Noted loan repayment, 60 days. I pulled the photo album from the yellow box. Found Brandon's graduation picture. Cap and gown, genuine smile, arms around both of us. The photo was dated May 2008. The next photo was from 2012. Brandon in a suit, standing in front of his real estate office sign. His commissions that year were $74,000, according to the tax returns I kept. Claire's journal from December 2012 mentioned he'd taken us to dinner at the steakhouse downtown. Said he was grateful for everything we'd done. By 2016, his commissions hit $180,000. The photos from that year showed Brandon at luxury open houses, staged mansions, marketing materials with his face plastered across billboards. Claire's journal from that Christmas said Brandon had declined our invitation, said he had a client event he couldn't miss, said he'd stop by later, but never did. The borrowing started in $2,000 in March. Emergency car repair he'd pay back next month. Claire noted it in her journal, included my comment that we should just give it to him instead of pretending it was a loan. The next request came 4 months later, $5,500 for office equipment. Real estate requires professional image, Mom. I'll have it back to you in 60 days. Claire's journal tracked every request. $4,000, $200 in 2019 for continuing education classes, $8,800 in 2020 for marketing materials, $12,000 in 2021 when his commissions dropped to $91,000, $13,500 in 2022. Total borrowed over 6 years, $47,000. Total repaid $0. Her entry from November 2022 said Brandon had explained it wasn't really debt. It was family investment in his business success. Said we'd benefit when his commissions recovered. Her entry from March 2023 was different. Shorter. Brandon asked to borrow $18,000 today. Said his mortgage refinancing fell through and he needs bridge financing. I said no. He got angry. Said I didn't understand business. Said I was treating him like a child. Roger wasn't home. I'm glad he wasn't home. I closed the album, found the burgundy box marked Estate Documents 2015, 2002-2003. 4. The authentic will was in the front divider. 5 pages drafted by Thomas Berkshire, our attorney, dated April 2019. Claire's signature witnessed by Berkshire's paralegal and receptionist. The terms were simple. Full estate to Roger. $50,000 education fund for Emma established separately. Personal effects distributed according to handwritten letter Claire kept with her jewelry. The estate total was documented in the attached financial summary. Teacher pension investments, $340,000. I ran my finger down the column. Inherited family property we sold in 2017, $280,000. Joint savings and certificates of deposit, $270,000. The total sat at the bottom in Claire's handwriting, $890,000. She'd drawn a small heart beside it. I pulled the documents out. Estate summary on top. I'd filed it beneath the will, always beneath, because dates go chronological. Someone had looked through these. Someone had photographed them. Brandon had visited in November. Said he wanted to help organize Claire's affairs. Said he was concerned I wasn't thinking clearly about the estate. I'd let him in the garage while I made coffee. He'd photographed everything. Had to have. The forged will he presented yesterday included details only someone who'd seen these documents would know. The phone on my workbench buzzed. Text from Brandon. Dad, I know you're upset. Let's talk this through. Mom would want us to work together. I set Claire's final journal on the workbench. Typed her name on the Royal Quiet Deluxe. The keys stamped ink onto paper with mechanical precision. Permanent. Unforgiving. Claire Elizabeth Halstead. 1962, 2th, 24. She saw it coming. I filed the letter chronologically beside her journals, pulled out my laptop, searched probate attorney's elder law. The third result showed Patricia Chen's profile. Former legal counsel for county fire department. Specialized in estate litigation and document authentication. I recognized her name. She'd handled the union contract dispute in 2016. Knew how firefighters documented everything. Knew our filing systems could withstand legal scrutiny. I pulled my phone from my pocket, stared at her office number. Brandon's forged will was in my truck. 5 pages splitting the estate, 60-40. Signatures from 2 witnesses who allegedly knew Claire. Witnesses I'd never heard of in 42 years. I dialed. 3 rings. Professional greeting. This is Roger Halstead, I said. My son forged my dead wife's will. I need help. That call 6 months ago changed everything. The woman who answered became the architect of Brandon's courtroom humiliation. The pattern started years before I ever called Patricia Chen. Brandon made the first joke about my typewriters at Thanksgiving 2018. We were seated around our dining room table. Claire's cornbread stuffing steamed in the serving dish. The turkey sat golden on the carving board, same ceramic platter her mother had used. Brandon carved, while Kylie arranged sweet potatoes on serving platters, like she was staging a photo shoot. Dad's still collecting those things, Brandon said, gesturing toward the garage with the carving knife. Got what now? 15? 16? 17? I said. He smiled at Kylie. Dad's very thorough with his hobbies. Kylie laughed. Not mean exactly. Just the sound people make when they're acknowledging something they find quaint. Claire's hand found mine under the table, squeezed once. I passed the gravy boat. His real estate commissions had peaked at $180,000 2 years prior, already declining to $145,000 that year, though he never mentioned the decline. The refinancing application showed it all. $4,800 monthly mortgage. 2 leased vehicles at $1,400. I declined to co-sign after seeing the debt-to-income ratio. Brandon had called it a missed opportunity, said we didn't understand leverage. Kylie had joined our family back in 2012 during Brandon's success wave. But by 2019, something had shifted in how she looked at our modest home. She'd grown up in Westchester County, the kind of neighborhood where everyone had cleaning services and belonged to country clubs. Her parents lost everything in 2008. House foreclosed, retirement accounts drained, her father's consulting business collapsed when corporate clients cut spending. Brandon told me the story once, said Kylie never got over it. Said she still flinched when bills arrived, still checked bank balances 3 times daily, still bought designer clothes she couldn't afford because wearing the right brands felt like armor against falling backward. Made sense when I watched her rearrange our living room furniture with her eyes during dinner. Made sense when she commented on Claire's china pattern being discontinued since the 1990s. You could update to something more modern, Kylie said, touching the rim of her plate. Williams-Sonoma has beautiful sets on sale. Claire smiled. These were my mother's. Oh, Kylie set her fork down. Well, they're very classic. Classic meant dated. I'd learned to translate. December 2019. Brandon asked if we'd co-sign a mortgage refinancing. He'd asked twice before, back in 2017 and early 2018. Third request in 3 years. He needed to consolidate debt, he said, lock in better rates, free up cash flow for a business opportunity. I asked, what business opportunity? Commercial REITs, he said, 12% average annual returns. You're leaving money on the table with those savings accounts. I asked how much debt he was consolidating. That's not relevant. Claire asked how much debt he was consolidating. He said that wasn't relevant. Said the refinancing was about strategic asset management. I said no. His jaw tightened. The smile stayed fixed, but his shoulders went rigid. You're making a financial mistake, he said. Maybe, I said, but it's our mistake to make. Kylie touched his arm. They left 20 minutes later, dessert uneaten. The borrowing requests escalated after that. $8,000 in March 2020 for a business opportunity he couldn't detail. $12,000 in September for temporary cash flow issues. $15,000 in June 2021 for an investment property down payment that never materialized. Claire tracked every request in her journals. Her entry from November 2021 said Brandon had started calling the money an investment instead of a loan, said we should view it as supporting his business growth, said we'd benefit when his commissions recovered. Her entry from March 2022 was different. Brandon asked for $18,000 today. Mortgage refinancing fell through. I said no. He got angry, said I was treating him like a child. Roger wasn't home. The tea I'd made for us went cold on the counter. I found that entry 3 months after she died. Realized I'd been at the fire station that day, attending a retirement luncheon. Claire's journals mentioned Kylie's casino trips, 3 annually, girls' weekends in Atlantic City. The entries noted timing. Always after, Brandon mentioned business setbacks. Always followed by Kylie buying new furniture or booking spa appointments. Claire had added up the credit card statements she'd seen during one of Kylie's reward points conversations. $23,000 in casino charges. 3 years. Brandon didn't know. October 2023. Claire's pancreatic cancer diagnosis came back from staging scans. I was moving the truck to a closer space when I spotted them near their Lexus. Parked 50 feet away, windows down. I heard every word. 6 months, the doctor said. Brandon said. Could be longer with treatment. Either way, we should start organizing things. Dad's not going to handle this well. I stood beside my truck. They didn't notice. Too focused on their phones, probably checking calendar apps. November 2023. Brandon and Kylie visited while Claire slept upstairs after a difficult chemotherapy session. Said they wanted to help organize estate documents, make sure everything was accessible if we needed it quickly. I let them into the garage, made coffee in the kitchen while they looked through files. When I returned, Kylie was photographing Claire's jewelry box with her phone. The flash went off twice more before she noticed me in the doorway. Brandon was measuring the dining room hutch with an app, the screen showing dimensions and estimated resale value. Insurance purposes, Kylie said, not looking up from her phone. They left an hour later. I checked the estate document boxes that evening. The burgundy files were out of sequence. Someone had removed the 2019 will, photographed it, returned it behind the 2020 tax returns instead of in front. Small thing, most people wouldn't notice. I noticed. December 2023. Brandon visited alone, said he was concerned about my ability to manage Claire's medical decisions. Wanted to review power of attorney documents, make sure I understood the legal responsibilities. He had a key from years ago, back when he'd water plants during our vacations. I was at Claire's chemotherapy appointment. I found the estate boxes disturbed again when I returned. Exact same pattern. Documents removed, photographed, returned in wrong order. This time, I set my old digital recorder from Station 7 on the shelf. Same Sony IDPX47D I'd used for incident scene documentation. Voice activated. 48-hour battery. February 2024. Emma spent an afternoon with Claire while I grocery shopped. They read together in bed, same ritual they'd maintained since Emma was 6. Claire wrote her a letter that day, sealed in a cream envelope. Claire's left slanted cursive on the outside for Emma, when you're ready. Told Emma not to open it until she asked. Emma told me about it 3 months later, after Claire died. After Brandon presented the forged will, the letter talked about integrity, about choosing difficult truths over comfortable lies, about how love sometimes meant protecting people from those who'd hurt them. February 2024. My recorder caught Kylie and Brandon in my kitchen. They'd stopped by to drop off soup, stayed after I went to the garage to find Claire's favorite blanket. Kylie's voice came through clear. 14 words that confirmed everything. Roger won't even know what hit him. He's so focused on her treatment, he can't see anything else. The will's ready, Brandon said. Just needs her signature. You've practiced enough. Your loop on the C is perfect now. I played it back 3 times, saved it to my laptop, backed it up to 2 separate drives. March 2024. Emma was supposed to be at soccer practice. She came home early, forgot her cleats, heard her parents in the kitchen. Her phone was in her hand. She pressed record. 47 minutes of her parents in the kitchen practicing signature forgery with tracing paper, discussing ink aging techniques from fraud forums, laughing about how Roger's filing system wouldn't help him because he wouldn't know to look for forgery. Emma encrypted the file, backed it up to her cloud storage, didn't tell anyone for 6 weeks. Claire's final journal entry was dated 8 days before she died. April 7th, Roger will need these files if Brandon questions my wishes. He doesn't understand what his father is capable of when protecting what we built. The documentation will speak for itself. Patricia Chen from the fire department days will fight for him if he asks. She understands how we document everything. She died April 15th. Cherry blossoms were blooming outside the hospice window. Brandon had delivered the eulogy 3 days later, navy suit pressed, voice steady. I remembered him at the podium, praising her wisdom in planning for the family's future. Said she'd always put family first. Said her legacy would live on through the investments she'd made in all of us. Kylie cried beside him. Emma sat between us, stone-faced. May 2020. Emma visited every Sunday, helped me sort through Claire's belongings, asked careful questions about estate documents, whether I had backup copies, whether I'd consulted an attorney, whether I knew Brandon had visited the garage alone. I told her I'd handled it. She nodded, didn't push. The pattern was clear by then. Every joke about my garage museum, every comment about our dated furniture, every borrowing request and refused co-signature, every measurement and photograph disguised as concern. Brandon had been planning this for years. Thought grief would make me too broken to notice. Thought 42 years of documented marriage could be erased with 5 pages of forged paper. He'd never understood what firefighters learn on their first structure. Fire. The smallest detail tells you everything. The door that's warm to touch. The smoke that's the wrong color. The sound that shouldn't be there. The estate boxes returned in wrong chronological order. That was the detail that said everything. Brandon arrived at my door 8 weeks after Claire's death. He carried a manila envelope, said he'd found Mom's will in her desk. I let him into the garage workshop. The space heater hummed. Outside, frost still covered the grass at noon. He set the envelope on my workbench beside the 1952 Royal Quiet Deluxe. You should read this, he said. Mom was very specific about her wishes. I opened the envelope. 5 pages. Page 1. Last Will and Testament of Claire Elizabeth Halstead. Dated November 2023. 5 months before she died. I read standing up. Brandon watched from beside the typewriter collection. I turned to page 2. The estate split 60-40, $534,000 to Brandon, $356,000 to me. Page 3 listed specific bequests. Brandon was to receive Claire's sapphire pendant. Emma would get the pearl strand. Witnessed by Margaret Voss and Carol Brennan. Friends from church, the document said. I'd never heard either name in 42 years. Claire's journal from March 2019 documented giving Emma the sapphire pendant for her 16th birthday. The pearl strand went to Emma for her confirmation in 2021. I set the forged will on the workbench, pulled the burgundy file box from the top shelf. The authentic will was in the front divider, exactly where I'd filed it in April 2019. 5 pages drafted by Thomas Berkshire. Claire's signature witnessed by his paralegal and receptionist. The terms were simple. Full estate to Roger. $50,000 education fund for Emma established separately. I laid both documents side by side on the workbench. Brandon shifted his weight. The newer one supersedes the old will, Dad. That's how these things work. I pulled Claire's final journal from the shelf. Opened to the entry dated February 2024. 6 weeks before she died. Page 47. Brandon asked again about estate planning today. I told him the same thing I've told him for 5 years. Roger gets everything. I've made this clear in the will with Thomas. Brandon seemed frustrated when I wouldn't discuss changing it. Brandon's jaw tightened. Dad, journals aren't legal instruments. They're personal thoughts. No probate court will accept them over a properly witnessed will. I closed the journal, filed it back on the shelf, put the authentic will and Claire's final journal in the weathered leather briefcase she'd given me when I made captain. The leather was worn smooth at the handle from 20 years of carrying incident reports. I'm visiting your house, I said. We need to discuss this. The drive to estates at Willow Creek took 20 minutes. Brandon's McMansion sat on a half-acre lot. Professional landscaping. The Lexus in the driveway had dealer tags. 2 months old. Kylie answered the door in Lululemon leggings and an athlete tank. Her ponytail swung as she stepped back. Her white sneakers looked unused. Roger, she said. Brandon mentioned you'd want to talk. She led me through the great room to the kitchen. The kitchen was all granite and stainless steel. Recessed lights reflected off surfaces Brandon couldn't afford. Brandon sat at the island reviewing something on his laptop. Estate documents, based on the spreadsheet format I could glimpse from across the island. I set the briefcase on the granite counter, pulled out Claire's journals and the authentic will. Your mother's actual will is filed with Thomas Berkshire, I said. This forgery won't work. Brandon's smile flattened. He set down his coffee cup with enough force to splash. Dad, people's wishes change. The document I showed you represents Mom's final, legally binding decisions about her legacy. Kylie's voice dropped half an octave, the same tone she used with difficult yoga clients. Roger, we're concerned your grief is affecting your judgment. Maybe you should speak with someone about processing this loss in healthy ways. I opened the final journal to February's entry, slid it across the granite. Read what she wrote 6 weeks before she died. Brandon glanced at the page, pushed it back. Journals aren't admissible legal documents. They're personal thoughts, not estate planning. Dad doesn't need $890,000. He's got his pension, his benefits. What's he going to do with that money? We're building something. We're creating generational wealth. Mom understood that. Kylie exchanged a glance with Brandon. She maintained her distance, 3 feet back from the island. We'll file the will with probate court next week, Brandon said. You can contest it if you want, but legal battles are expensive. Dad, Maybe just accept what Mom wanted. It'll be easier for everyone. I stood, collected Claire's journals, the authentic will, put them back in the briefcase she'd given me for making captain. I spent 30 years documenting incidents at Station 7, I said. Saved the department from 4 lawsuits because I could produce the exact paperwork they claimed didn't exist. Brandon's expression didn't change. I documented everything with your mother too. I walked to the front door. Kylie followed at a distance. She opened it, held it while I stepped onto the porch. The door closed behind me. The deadbolt clicked, solid, final. I drove home, hands tight on the wheel. The briefcase sat on the passenger seat. Through the leather, I could feel the weight of Claire's journals. 42 years of marriage preserved in her left slanted cursive. Brandon had bet everything on grief making me unable to fight. Had counted on me being too broken to recognize the fraud, too isolated to find help, too old to navigate probate court. He'd forgotten what firefighters learn on their first structure, fire. The smallest detail tells you everything. Claire used to tease me about the filing cabinet, called it sacred scripture. Said even she could find anything in 30 seconds because I never varied the pattern. She'd been right about that, and she'd been right about what came next. The documentation would speak for itself. I spent 2 days organizing the burgundy boxes, cross-referencing every entry in Claire's journals against estate documents. On the 3rd day, I called Patricia Chen. The phone rang twice. Professional voice answered. I recognized it from union contract negotiations in 2016. "This is Roger Halstead," I said. "My son forged my dead wife's will. I need help." Silence held for 3 seconds. "Roger from Station 7? Patricia asked. "Yes. When did your wife pass?" 8 weeks ago. Pancreatic cancer. How do you know the will is forged?" I pulled Claire's final journal from the shelf, opened to February's entry. My wife kept journals for 42 years. Her final entries contradict everything in the forged document. The signatures don't match. The witnesses are people she never met. "What documentation do you have?" "Everything. Bank statements, medical records, her journals, the authentic will filed with our attorney in 2019. Color-coded filing system. Chronological." The line went quiet again. I heard papers shuffling. "Can you meet Friday morning at Station 7? Patricia asked. "Memorial room. Bring whatever documentation you have." "All of it?" "All of it." Friday morning, I loaded 3 color-coded boxes into my truck. The boxes held Claire's journals, estate documents, financial records spanning 42 years. Station 7 looked the same as it had on my retirement day 6 years ago. Red brick, 3 apparatus bays, American flag flying above the entrance. I parked in the visitor lot beside Captain Martinez's F-250. The memorial room smelled like old leather and brass polish. Someone had the apparatus bay doors open. Exhaust from the idling engines drifted through. 17 retired firefighters sat around the long table, quarterly breakfast gathering. Coffee percolated on the counter. Someone had brought donuts from the bakery on 5th Street. Martinez stood when I entered carrying the boxes. "Roger." He shook my hand. "Heard about Claire." "I'm sorry. Thank you." Patricia sat at the far end of the table, reading glasses on a chain, charcoal blazer, leather portfolio open in front of her. She stood, gestured to the empty chair beside her. I set the boxes on the table. The color-coded labels caught fluorescent light. Wilson from Engine Company 3 looked up from his coffee. You still using that color-coded system? Yes. Martinez leaned over, studied both documents. Your incident reports were like that, he said. Why, everything documented. Court stenographers said they were clearer than the lawyer's briefs. Patricia pulled the first box toward her. Opened the lid. Claire's journals filled the top row, leather spines labeled 1982 through 2024. She lifted the final volume, ran her fingers across the cover. May I? I nodded. She opened to the first page. Claire's left slanted cursive filled the entry dated January 1, 2024, New Year's Day. Roger made his mother's pancake recipe. Brandon called to cancel Sunday dinner. Third time this month. Kylie's voice in the background. I heard her say something about the kitchen renovation. They're planning to use my estate money before I'm gone. Patricia read for 20 minutes. The firefighters ate donuts, talked about pension issues, gave us space. She turned pages carefully, comparing handwriting samples across decades. She closed the journal, set it beside the forged will I'd pulled from the second box. This signature was traced, she said, pointing to Claire's name on the forged document. See how the pressure is uniform? Natural handwriting shows variation. This was copied mechanically. Patricia pulled a fountain pen from her portfolio. Burgundy barrel, gold-filled cap. Parker 51, she said. 1947. Belonged to my uncle. Survived the war in his pocket through the Pacific Theater. She held it up to the light. This will be a battle of endurance, Roger. But we have everything we need. She took the case pro bono, said her father had been exploited by his brother through a forged power of attorney, said elder law wasn't just her practice. Week 1, she retained Dr. Sarah Venkatesan, forensic document examiner, 30-year career, 400 court testimonies. The analysis cost $7,200. I paid from savings. Dr. Venkatesan's laboratory smelled like acetone and old documents. Sharp chemical sting mixed with musty paper. Examination tables held comparison microscopes, ultraviolet lighting, digital imaging equipment. She showed me the birthday card Brandon had used for tracing. Claire's signature from March 2023. The loop on the C matched the forged will exactly. Mechanical tracing, Dr. Venkatesan said. She adjusted the microscope. Look at the ink distribution under magnification. I leaned in. Under magnification, tiny gaps appeared where the pen had lifted during tracing. Natural handwriting flows continuously. The ink formulation is wrong too, she continued. This will is dated November 2023, but the ink wasn't commercially available until January 2024. The chemical signature doesn't match the timeline. She pulled out photographs, side-by-side comparisons showing the traced signature next to Claire's authentic signatures from her journals. The paper was artificially aged, Dr. Venkatesan said. Tea staining. Common fraud technique. Shows up clearly under ultraviolet light. She created exhibits. 20 pages of photographic evidence, making the forgery obvious even to someone with no forensic training. This proves fraud beyond any reasonable doubt, she said. 2 days after Dr. Venkatesan's report, Emma called Patricia's office directly. Patricia texted me at 1440 hours. Your granddaughter is here. She has something you need to hear. I drove to Patricia's office, 2-room suite near the courthouse. IKE of furniture, legal reference books lining the walls. Emma sat at the consultation table, iPhone in her hand. She looked up when I entered. Her eyes were red. "I recorded them," she said, 3 weeks before Grandma died. I came home early from soccer practice. They were in the kitchen practicing her signature. Patricia had already verified the file. 47 minutes of audio. March 2024, timestamp. GPS coordinates showing Brandon's McMansion kitchen. Patricia pressed play. Kylie's voice came through the phone speaker. "Use the tracing paper. Get the loop right on the C. Your mother always made it slightly wider at the base." Brandon's voice followed. "This has to be perfect. If Dad notices anything wrong with the signature, the whole plan falls apart." Kylie again. "Roger will never figure it out. He's too busy crying over old photos to notice what we're doing." Emma closed her eyes. Her shoulders drew inward. Tears tracked down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. The recording continued. Discussion of ink agent techniques from fraud forums. Brandon asking whether they should practice on different paper stock. Kylie suggesting they age the document using tea to match the authentic will's color. Patricia stopped the playback. "I had this authenticated," she said. "The metadata proves the recording date. The cloud backup creates a tamper-proof evidence chain. This is admissible." 4 weeks after our Station 7 meeting, Patricia contacted Detective Morris. County Fraud Investigation Unit. 27 years on the job. 140 fraud investigations. 87% conviction rate. Morris subpoenaed Brandon's financial records. The documents arrived in 2 bankers' boxes. $680,000 mortgage. $140,000 home equity line of credit. $67,000 in credit card debt across 11 cards. His real estate commissions showed the decline. $180,000 in 2016. $71,000 in 2023. Monthly obligations totaled $6,200. Income couldn't sustain it. Morris documented 3 mortgage refinancing applications, all denied between April and September 2023. 6 months before Claire's cancer diagnosis. Clear motive, Morris said. He spread the timeline across Patricia's work table. Financial desperation correlates directly with the forgery planning. He needed that inheritance to avoid bankruptcy. Patricia filed the will contest in probate court that afternoon, serving discovery requests. Depositions scheduled for Margaret Voss and Carol Brennan. The witnesses who allegedly saw Claire sign the forged will. Both women appeared at the county courthouse for depositions, each with their own attorney. Voss went first. 53 years old, administrative assistant at a dental practice. "Did you know Claire Halstead?" Patricia asked. "No." "Did you ever meet her?" "No." "Did you witness her signing any documents?" "No." Patricia slid a copy of the forged will across the table. Pointed to the witness signature line. "That's your signature?" Voss looked at her attorney. He nodded. "Yes," she said. "Brandon paid me $500 to sign estate planning paperwork. He said it was standard procedure. I never met his mother." Brennan's deposition lasted 12 minutes. Same story. $500. Blank witness forms. No meeting with Claire. I sat in my garage workshop that evening. The typewriters lined the workbench behind me. The estate files were stacked on the table, evidence labeled and indexed. Claire's final journal sat beside the 1952 Royal Quiet Deluxe. I typed her name on a fresh sheet of paper. The keys stamped ink with mechanical precision. Claire Elizabeth Halstead. You saw it coming. My phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. "Everything's ready. Judge Brenner scheduled the hearing for 3 weeks from today. Discovery deadline is Friday. Your son's attorney just withdrew from the case. I filed the letter in the estate document box marked 2024 behind Claire's final journal entry in front of the bankruptcy research I'd started yesterday. Put the file boxes back on the shelf. The documentation had spoken for itself. 3 color-coded boxes. 42 years of marriage. 1 forged signature. Now it would speak in court. 8 months of preparation led to this moment. I arrived at Courtroom 3B at 0845 hours on the day that would destroy Brandon's fraud. The hallway smelled like floor wax, and coffee burned down to bitter sludge in the attorney break room pot. Patricia stood beside the door, reviewing her notes, the Parker 51 pen in her right hand. The gallery was already full. 17 retired firefighters in dress uniforms occupied the first 3 rows. Martinez sat in the front, brass buttons catching the fluorescent light. Wilson beside him, Captain Barnes from Engine Company 5. 3 decades of brotherhood filling the benches. They'd driven from 3 counties. Nobody asked them to come. Patricia looked up from her legal pad. The Parker 51 pen was already in her right hand, burgundy barrel catching the fluorescent light the same way it had in her office 8 months ago. Ready? I nodded. We entered through the oak double doors. The courtroom held 30 wooden benches, acoustic tile ceiling, windows overlooking the parking lot where my F-150 sat beside Brandon's leased BMW. Judge Brenner's elevated bench dominated the front wall, flanked by the American flag and state seal. Brandon sat at the petitioner's table in a navy suit. The fabric still held store creases. 3 days old, based on the receipt detective Morris found in Brandon's trash. Kylie beside him in a designer dress, highlighted hair styled perfectly, French manicure gripping her purse. They both smiled when we entered. Brandon's smile was the same one he'd used selling overpriced condos to retirees. Confident, practiced, about to fail. Brandon's attorney was arranging documents on the desk, 5 pages of forged wills spread across the surface. Patricia set her briefcase on our table. I placed the burgundy file box beside it. Claire's journals filled the top row. Judge Catherine Brenner entered at ear 900 exactly. We stood. She took her seat, adjusted her reading glasses, opened the case file. This is a will contest between Brandon Halstead, petitioner, and Roger Halstead, respondent. Ms. Chen, you may proceed. Brandon's attorney stood. Tall man, expensive suit, voice trained for courtroom performance. Your Honor, we're here to uphold Claire Halstead's final wishes. The will before you represents her legally executed estate plan, properly witnessed and binding. He called Margaret Voss first. She was 53, administrative assistant at a dental practice. Took the witness stand, sworn in by the clerk. Did you witness Claire Halstead signing her will? Brandon's attorney asked. Yes. Can you describe the circumstances? Brandon brought the documents to my office. I signed as witness. Patricia stood for cross-examination. She carried only her fountain pen. Did you know Claire Halstead? Voss gripped the witness stand railing. No. Did you ever meet her? No. Patricia held up the forged will, pointed to the witness signature line. Mr. Halstead paid you $500 to sign this document? Voss looked at her attorney. He nodded. Yes. Carol Brennan provided identical testimony. Never met Claire. $500. Blank witness forms Brandon claimed were estate planning paperwork. Brandon testified next. He adjusted his tie, twice climbing to the witness stand. His voice was steady when his attorney asked about Claire's wishes. Mom wanted to build something. She understood the difference between just holding money and creating generational wealth. The will reflects her vision for the family's future. Patricia let him talk. She sat at our table taking notes with the Parker 51, the fountain pen scratching across yellow legal paper. Brandon spoke for 12 minutes, used words like portfolio diversification and strategic asset allocation, said Claire's journals were emotional rambling, not legal documents. Patricia stood when he finished. No questions, Your Honor. Judge Brenner's eyebrows rose. Patricia called Dr. Sarah Venkatesan. The forensic document examiner was 62, gray hair pulled back, 30 years of courtroom testimony behind her calm voice. She brought photographic exhibits in a 3-ring binder. This signature was mechanically traced, Dr. Venkatesan said. She placed the first exhibit on the overhead projector. The image showed Claire's signature from the forged will beside her authentic signature from the 2019 will. Natural handwriting shows pressure variation. The traced signature has uniform pressure throughout. See here, she pointed to the loop on the C. Under magnification, the ink distribution was perfectly even. The tracing paper left no gaps, but the pressure tells the story. She turned to the next exhibit. The ink formulation dates to 2021. This will claims to be from November 2023. The chemical signature doesn't match the timeline. Patricia introduced 17 exhibits. Each one showed another layer of fraud. Tea-stained paper aging, mechanical signature reproduction, timeline impossibilities. By Exhibit 12, Brandon's tan looked painted over chalk. His hand found his collar again, found nothing to adjust. Patricia called Thomas Wright next. Claire's bank manager for 38 years. He was 70, wearing a gray cardigan and wire-rimmed glasses. I met with Claire Halstead 6 weeks before her death. She updated her account beneficiaries, named Roger as sole recipient. Her mental clarity was complete. We discussed specific account numbers, transfer procedures, tax implications. Patricia introduced Claire's journals. 17 leather-bound volumes. Judge Brenner accepted them as authenticated timeline documents. Patricia read from the final entry. Brandon asked again about estate planning today. I told him the same thing I've told him for 5 years. Roger gets everything. Brandon seemed frustrated when I wouldn't discuss changing it. She closed the journal. Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit M. Brandon's shoulders went rigid. What is Exhibit M? Judge Brenner asked. An audio recording. The court is about to hear the petitioner and his wife discussing how to forge Claire Halstead's signature. The recording was made 3 weeks before Mrs. Halstead's death. Brandon's tan went sallow. I pulled the digital recorder from my jacket pocket, set it on the table. My thumb found the play button. Brandon's voice filled the courtroom through the ceiling speakers. I can't get the loop right on the C. Show me again how Mom signed cards. Kylie's voice followed. Use the tracing paper. Lighter pressure. Your mother always made it slightly wider at the base. Behind me, Martinez's dress uniform shifted. One quiet movement. 17 firefighters stayed silent as Brandon's recorded voice filled every corner. The recording continued. 47 minutes. Discussion of ink aging from fraud forums. Brandon asking about paper stock. Kylie suggesting tea staining to match document age. This has to be perfect. or the old man will figure it out. Kylie's laugh came through clearly. Roger will never figure it out. He's too busy crying over old photos to notice what we're doing. By the time he realizes, it'll be too late. Judge Brenner leaned forward. Her expression had shifted from professional neutrality to visible disgust. She took notes while the recording played, folded her glasses with the deliberate care of someone buying time to control visible disgust. Brandon sat motionless. Kylie gripped his arm, knuckles white against navy fabric. The recording ended with Brandon's voice. "We'll file it 6 weeks after she dies. Give it enough time that he's too grief-stricken to fight back." Patricia pressed stop. The silence held. "The respondent rests, Your Honor." Brandon's attorney requested a brief recess. Judge Brenner granted 15 minutes. When court resumed, the attorney stood. "Your Honor, I'm withdrawing from this case. Irreconcilable differences with my clients about testimony." He gathered his papers. Left through the main doors, Brandon and Kylie sat alone at the petitioner's table. Judge Brenner removed her reading glasses. "Mr. Halstead, do you have anything to say?" Brandon opened his mouth. "Oh!" No sound came out. He closed it again. Kylie stared at the table. "This matter will be taken under advisement," Judge Brenner said. "I'm also referring this case to the District Attorney's Fraud Unit for criminal investigation." She stood. We stood. She exited through the chamber doors. The 17 firefighters filed out through the gallery. Martinez squeezed my shoulder passing. Wilson nodded. Brandon and Kylie remained seated. Neither moved. Patricia packed her briefcase. I collected Claire's journals, returned them to the burgundy file box. We walked out together. The hallway was empty. Our footsteps echoed on marble tile. "How long until she rules?" I asked. 2 weeks. Maybe less. Patricia held the Parker 51 up to the fluorescent light. Some things can't be forged. Outside, November rain had started. The parking lot reflected red taillights and courthouse security lights. My truck was right where I'd left it. The burgundy file box sat on the passenger seat, ready to go home. Judge Brenner removed her reading glasses, folded them with the methodical care of someone buying time to control visible disgust. "The forged will is void. Roger Halstead receives the full estate as Claire Halstead intended." Motion granted. She didn't need to take the matter under advisement, didn't need time to review evidence. The recording had said everything. Mr. Brandon Halstead and Mrs. Kylie Halstead are ordered to pay $18,400 in court costs and attorney fees within 30 days. Brandon's hand found his collar, found nothing to adjust. "I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Fraud Unit for criminal prosecution. I recommend felony charges." Judge Brenner stood. We stood. She exited through the chamber doors. The courtroom stayed silent. Brandon and Kylie remained seated at the petitioner's table. Neither moved. Kylie's French manicure gripped the table edge, knuckles white against mahogany. Detective Morris appeared in the gallery doorway. He walked to their table, badge visible on his belt. "Mr. Halstead, Mrs. Halstead, formal charges will be filed within 72 hours. You'll be notified of arraignment date." Brandon's tan looked painted over chalk. He nodded once. They stood, walked toward the exit, flanked by Morris. Brandon's shoulders drew inward. Kylie's designer heels clicked on marble tile. Neither looked back. Patricia packed her briefcase. The Parker 51 fountain pen went into its leather case first. 2 days, she said. The DA works fast on elder fraud. The 17 firefighters filed past. Martinez squeezed my shoulder. Wilson nodded. Nobody spoke. I collected Claire's journals, returned them to the burgundy file box. The leather spines caught fluorescent light the same way they had in my garage workshop 8 months ago. Detective Morris had promised formal charges within 72 hours. The DA filed them in 48. Class C, felony document. Forgery charges against both Brandon and Kylie. 2 to 10-year sentences, maximum punitive fines, and court costs. The charges became public record that afternoon. Brandon's real estate broker terminated their relationship before end of business. I found out from Martinez, who heard it from his sister-in-law who worked at the title company. Moral turpitude clause, Martinez said over coffee at Station 7. Independent contractor agreement forbids felony conduct. The real estate community talked. Every agent in the county knew within a week Brandon Halstead forged his dying mother's will, tried to steal $890,000 from his grieving father, got caught on tape practicing her signature. Nobody would work with him. Nobody would refer clients. Nobody would return his calls. His commissions had been $71,000 last year. Now they'd be zero. The financial cascade started the same week. Brandon and Kylie were 4 months behind on their mortgage. $4,800 monthly payment. They'd spent $12,000 on the attorney before he withdrew, citing irreconcilable differences. The inheritance money they'd counted on wouldn't arrive. Would never arrive. The bank initiated foreclosure proceedings, posted the notice on their front door. White paper on mahogany, visible from the street. Every neighbor in estates at Willow Creek drove past that notice twice daily. Morning commute, evening return. The foreclosure notice stayed up for 3 weeks before the repossession trucks arrived. I heard about it from Emma. She'd driven past at 7 in the morning, heading to school. 2 tow trucks blocked the cul-de-sac, she said. The BMW and the Lexus both hooked up. Neighbors were collecting newspapers, watching. Both vehicles gone. 1,400 monthly lease payments. Brandon couldn't make any more. The credit card lawsuits came next. 11 companies filing collection actions. 67,000 total. 0 defense. 67,000 total across cards. Brandon had maxed trying to maintain the McMansion lifestyle. The home equity line holder initiated collection on $140,000 balance. Detective Morris had documented it all during the fraud investigation. Now the lenders wanted their money back. Estates at Willow Creek, HOA, held an emergency meeting. Voted to remove Kylie from the Architectural Review Committee, 3-year position she'd used to enforce her aesthetic preferences on neighbors who'd quietly mocked her try-hard entertaining. The ostracism was surgical. Neighbors avoided eye contact during mail pickup. Nobody waved from driveways anymore. The image-focused community, rejecting those whose image had failed. Kylie's Instagram account lost 15 followers in 2 weeks, down to 32 from 47. She gained 0 new ones. The furniture staging photographs looked different now. Not aspirational, just evidence of fraud. Granite countertops and stainless appliances bought on credit cards she couldn't pay. She deleted the account 3 days later. Patricia mentioned Detective Morris had found a private folder on Brandon's phone during the investigation. Screenshots from luxury lifestyle influencers. The life Brandon wanted was permanently out of reach now. Emma came to my house the week after the ruling. Brought 2 suitcases and her laptop. I met with family services, she said. They confirmed, I can choose where to live. I choose here. I'd converted Claire's sewing room into a bedroom for her. The sewing room still smelled faintly of Claire's lavender sachets. I'd left them in the closet when I converted the space. Claire's books lined the shelves. Her reading lamp sat on the nightstand. Emma set her suitcases down, looked around the modest room with its dated furniture and cream walls. "This is good," she said. The district attorney requested her testimony for the criminal proceedings. Offered to shield her from having to appear. Emma declined the shield. "I'll testify," she told the prosecutor. "They need to hear what I recorded." She maintained her encrypted journals, documented everything about her parents' behavior, said it helped her understand how people chose greed over integrity. Her GPA stayed at 3.8. She started college applications the month she moved in. "Forensic psychology," she said. "State University has a good program." Claire had established a $50,000 education fund, separate from the estate, explicitly for Emma. I helped her research programs, reviewed application essays at the kitchen table, same table where Claire had graded papers for 38 years. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks, with trial date set for 8 months out if Brandon refused plea bargaining. Brandon and Kylie posted $50,000 bond each. Kylie's parents mortgaged their retirement condo to secure it. They moved into the guest room, awaited trial. The estate settlement transferred to my accounts the week after Judge Brenner's ruling. $890,000. Exactly what Claire had intended. Exactly what her journals documented. Exactly what the authentic 2019 will specified. I deposited it systematically, same way Claire and I had saved for 42 years. Monthly contributions, documented withdrawals, color-coded files. I logged the deposit in the Burgundy estate file, added bank confirmation printouts, filed them chronologically behind the settlement agreement. Patricia called when the transfer cleared. "It's over," she said. I sat in my garage workshop. The typewriters lined the workbench behind me. The Burgundy file boxes filled the shelves. Emma was in the kitchen doing homework. I could hear her pencil scratching paper through the open door. The satisfaction from the courtroom had faded. What remained was the weight of 42 years, preserved in leather and ink. Claire's final journal sat beside the 1952 Royal Quiet Deluxe. I typed her name on fresh paper, Claire Elizabeth Halstead. You knew what was coming. You prepared me for it. The letter went into the estate document box marked 2024, filed chronologically behind her final entry, in front of the settlement confirmation. Everything documented, everything preserved, the way it had always been. I sat in the garage workshop 12 months after the probate court ruling, typing another letter to Claire on the 1952 Royal Quiet Deluxe. The keys stamped ink onto paper with the same mechanical precision they'd had for 70 years. Emma got accepted to the State University Forensic Psychology program. Full scholarship plus the education fund you set aside. She starts in August. The letter went into the Burgundy file box marked 2025, placed in sequence with the 17 previous letters I'd written since the trial ended. Claire's journals occupied the shelf above, her 42 years of marriage preserved in leather and ink. Brandon had accepted a plea deal after 8 months of criminal proceedings, 3 years in state prison, 5 years supervised probation, $890,000 restitution order he'd never be able to pay. Kylie got 2 years probation after cooperating with the prosecution. Her detailed account of the fraud forum research and tea-staining techniques was instrumental in securing Brandon's plea deal and avoiding a lengthy trial. Both sent letters requesting Emma's forgiveness. She declined to answer, declined supervised visitation rights, maintained no contact. "I made the choices I can live with," she'd told Family Services. They made different ones. The estate money sat in accounts managed exactly as Claire's journals had specified. $50,000 for Emma's education, $100,000 donated to pancreatic cancer research at Claire's hospital, funding an annual fellowship named in her honor for oncology residents, $25,000 endowed scholarship at her elementary school for students pursuing teaching careers, awarded every year on her birthday. The rest remained invested. Blue box labeled Investments 2025 held monthly statements showing 4.2% returns, each transaction logged the same way Claire had taught me. I still lived in the same house. Same $180,000 ranch we bought in 1985. Fime 12-year-old F 150 in the driveway. Same garage workshop with typewriters lined along the workbench. 22 now. I'd restored another one during the peaceful year. A 1947 Underwood Champion. Emma helped me clean the type bars last Saturday. She sat at the corner desk now, working on her college essay about moral courage. Her laptop glowed in the winter morning light. The space heater hummed against December cold. The garage smelled of machine oil and coffee and old paper. "Grandpa?" I looked up from the typewriter. "Do you think Grandma knew it would end exactly like this, with both of them in prison?" Claire's final journal entry came back to me. The documentation would speak for itself, she'd written. She'd known Brandon would try something, known the filing system would preserve what we built. She always knew, didn't she? That's why she kept every receipt for 42 years. Emma nodded, returned to her essay. I typed the last line of my letter to Claire. $50,000 for Emma's education, $100,000 for cancer research, $25,000 for the teaching scholarship. Everything documented, everything as Claire specified. The letter went into the estate document box, marked 2025. Winter sun filtered through the window. Bare trees visible beyond. We worked in companionable silence, building something that couldn't be forged or stolen or betrayed. Something true.